There's a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment. And here, we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. You know, sometimes some of us do all kinds of stuff, and we have got one of them with us today. But before I go there, I have to introduce my friend and cohort, Brachelle. Brachelle, how are you?
I'm good, Kevin. I'm tired and these allergies are beating me, but I hope I'm not the only one going through it. And I'm very excited for our guest today. We have Kate Lowry here with us. Her website is katelowry.com. Go check that out. The last name is Lowry. And I love your website, Kate, I have to say, because right off the bat, it says helping people make sense of difficult realities with agency, warmth, and empowerment. I love that. So thank you for being here. And how are you today?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well.
Very good.
That is. I understand that you are in the great state of California.
You betcha. A place where innovation grows, but we also got a lot of really smart and really quirky people in Silicon Valley.
Love that.
Well, it's like on Capitol Hill here in Seattle. We've got a very unique and exciting culture. When Brachelle came to visit me a while back, and they were going to stay up there, I said, no, you might not want to, because it's very eclectic and very interesting. And just walking down the street, you see all kinds of different people. I imagine that it's that way in Silicon Valley as well.
You betcha. Sometimes it feels like the whole city of San Francisco is just an R&D lab. There's always different little robots from different startups roaming the streets. We've got a ton of Waymo. All of the startups that have money from VCs test their MVPs on the citizens here. So we get all of the technology first, but we're kind of like beta users. We provide lots of feedback.
Wow, that is really cool, and I'm excited to talk to you today because you get to do something that I've always wanted to do, but I'm too scared to do it, and that's that you do comedy.
That's
And
right.
and in addition to that, you were in corporate America for a long time, and you worked for a lot of different folks, and some of them were good. And I don't know if you've noticed, but there seems to be a lot of fear leadership going on these days. And so we're going to talk about that today.
Sounds great.
And it's when we talk about fear leadership, it's kind of pretty much everywhere. And in the work that you've done and in your experiences, you've experienced some fear leadership, haven't you?
Yes, I definitely have. So I've done a bunch of different things in my career. I've founded and grown 3 different companies. I've worked in startups, big tech, management consulting, and venture capital. And when I started my career, about 3 in 10 leaders were fear-based leaders, meaning that their kind of might makes right. When I say jump, you ask how high, very top down, really hierarchical, don't really care about their employees' needs. But in the last few years of my career, it's been more like 7 out of 10 of the leaders that I encounter. And this wave of fear based leadership has gone from being kind of a no style to being really in vogue. And that means that people really need some help figuring out how to deal with it.
Because it used to be that there were folks that believed. Like, as a matter of fact, we have a thing called leadership that I play from time to time, and we believe that leadership was being like a leader, not a whip master, if you will, and that if people follow you because they want to, not because they have to, that you get better results. Have you found that to be true?
Oh, absolutely. Fear-based leadership gets very short-term, brittle, not so great results. When people around you are afraid, it essentially robs them of their creativity.
Mhm.
It makes it harder for them to be strategic, because when you're scared, you can't really think straight. And it also means that fear based leaders' businesses get tripped up by mistakes because people are afraid to admit when things are going wrong. So they often end up with much, much bigger headaches to handle later.
Hmm.
And they sometimes don't even know what's going wrong until it shows up on their doorstep, do they?
Oh boy. Fear based leaders are often caught off guard for a few reasons. One, they're really arrogant, and arrogance in particular is blinding. You kind of see what you want to see in the people around you. You might think, okay, like these folks are just incompetent sheep. I'm doing my thing, I'm big and powerful. But that means that a lot of bad stuff sneaks up on them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Michelle, you've never worked for a bad leader, have you?
Oh man, I wish I could be somebody to say I got to skip that, but I've had the same experience, and I think what's interesting about it is learning like the opposite of that, because when that's all you're kind of used to, it becomes your normal, right? So you get job after job after job, and you're wondering, well, what's wrong with me and what's not working, and then you realize that you maybe didn't get the training or the guidance or even just the humanitarian understanding of being a human doing a job, let alone trying to be perfect at it. And then you go to something where people are like, well, for me, the same way with Kevin, it was mistakes happen. Um, let it be. It's going to be okay. It's a lot of building rather than breaking. Would you say that's fair to say that's a good way to describe the difference of the two people?
Oh, totally. So fear-based leaders act the way they do because they themselves are really insecure and they're
Right.
afraid subconsciously. Am I liked? Will I ever be enough? So they
Mhm.
use fear to motivate the other people around them. But strengths-based leaders, which you're talking about, they're much less about suppressing people's potential and securing obedience and more
Mhm.
about unlocking potential. It's a type of servant leadership that says, I'm going to do the things that only I can do and then get out of the way so that my team is enabled and empowered to do their best work. And in business, that leads to much, much stronger results. But that feeling that you're describing, what's wrong with me? Why can't I find someplace good? I want
Mhm.
to tell the listeners that there's nothing wrong with you. This is just a big wave sweeping across society right now. It's definitely in tech, it's definitely in business. And folks should understand that it's normal to feel alone, powerless, discouraged, stuck, until you learn the skills to get yourself unstuck around these types of really difficult people.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, and tell me if this is true or not, but when you are facing somebody who's like that and you don't jump how high or
Mhm.
move the way that they want, that's very frustrating for them, isn't it?
It is. They're almost hoping that you do something wrong because they really like getting reactions out of people. So they like, shaming people in front of the other colleagues. They like telling you how dumb and incompetent you are. It all reinforces this notion that they have that they're superior to everyone else and that the only way to get something done right is to do it themselves. They really think that there's no such thing as equality and that they're above the rules.
Mm.
Well, that's been my philosophy forever, right, Michelle?
Yeah, you're the big bad wolf, Kevin, totally. You're actually really bad at that, but I love that, and I think it's empowering for other people because it gives the example, right? So if somebody's learning from a leader like that, and maybe they themselves feel the insecurity and the discouragement and the fear, they become a fear-based leader as well. So takes one to create so many more, which is even more terrifying to think about. But on the other hand of that, I have to ask you, can a fear-based leader become a strength leader?
They can. I can tell you that it's a hard journey. I
Yeah.
grew up in a family where both of my parents were fear-based leaders, and I was
Mhm.
raised to be one. I was taught this is
Right.
how you manipulate, this is how you dominate, this is how you crush others.
Mhm.
But that was not appealing to me. I learned pretty quickly after going to college and leaving home that that's not the way that you make friends and influence people. And so I had to set off on my own journey to study what does healthy leadership look like. And then it was really interesting being in these elite aspects of the business world, seeing who chose strengths-based and who chose fear-based, because only in a few instances have I seen someone make the choice to change.
Yeah.
It's weird to me, and it seems like it takes way too much effort to figure out how to manipulate people and to set people against each other, and to do that. That takes a real strategic thinking mind to be able to do that, and then to do what would be hard for me is to sleep at night.
Yeah. I wrote recently a piece called Moral Schmorals, and it was about how leaders like this see morals as something that makes other people weak and predictable. It's about how they leverage morals against other people to get predictable responses from them. Because fear based leaders operate on a totally different system of logic. It's an emotion and power driven type of logic, not the type of rational, mature logic that you might be used to. And so in my book, I have to really teach how do you communicate on their radio channel? Because if you're
Mm.
stuck on a rational, mature radio channel and they're stuck on theirs, it's just two people who are talking straight past each other and both parties get frustrated.
And then the employee decides, you're not worth working for. And so
Mhm.
I'm going to go find someplace else to go work. But the problem is I got to ask you, is there like a school that teaches this crap? Or is it like, is this just what they've learned over time? Or this is how they are going to, attain power? That's what we're going to do. We're going to obtain power by being a naughty person.
Yeah.
I almost said a bad word.
So you could think of these leaders as starting out as schoolyard bullies or mean girls. Um, and typically, they start learning these behaviors at home, like I did. They miss what I call kindergarten lessons, which are
Mm.
how to make friends, how to apologize, how to consider someone else's experience, how to be thoughtful because they're typically raised in environments that have a high level of chaos, where the adults around them are about domination, manipulation, and control. Sometimes they'll disguise this by calling it a culture of winning. Everything is a game. You're either winning or you're losing. You're on top or you're being stepped on. And so, this type of gamified winner, loser, winner take all mindset starts young and then expresses throughout their life.
Have you ever seen a situation or an instance where it was the one who was bullied that became that to feel like they had power?
Yes. So, when fear based leaders are children, they are the ones who are being bullied. And because they learn that if they're either being stepped on or doing the stepping, they decide to start doing the stepping.
Mm.
And that's a
Yeah,
really sad lesson for a child to have to learn. But it's also second nature to them because it's what's role model to them.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's frightening because if if this resonates with you, because it's like, oh, that's the way to go. I love being a fear-based leader. I love people to quake and when I walk into a
Mhm.
room, and I want to tell you this: it's ineffective. More so than being just a bad guy, it's ineffective, because what ends up happening is your turnover goes up, your employee productivity goes down, because they don't care about you deeply. They just are in fear of you. And so your turnover goes up, and turnover is very expensive. And your productivity goes down because they don't really care. And so consequently, I like to say, Kate, that on every P&L I've ever seen, there isn't a line with a cost associated to one of the biggest hidden expenses in business today, and that's turnover. And if you have higher turnover because you're not creating a good environment to work in, that turnover can be very expensive, and it can take you from a profitable business to an unprofitable business. And I'm sure you've seen that in the past.
Yes. Something that is very counterintuitive for people to understand about leaders like this is that they deliberately manufacture chaos. Chaos in, for example, the direct reports of their C-suite actually works in their favor, because when the people under them are warring with each other, or there's a huge lack of clarity around strategy, they become the only source of truth.
Yep.
And people who are infighting are much easier to control. And so leaders like this sometimes will make excuses like, oh, you just can't find good employees these days, or, my employees are so weak, they don't get my 996 culture. Like it's amazing to hear the rationalizations they make to themselves.
Yeah.
Well, and by the way, we're talking with Kate Lowry. She is a budding author. She's got a book coming out, which is called Unbreakable, on the 28th of October. You can pre-order it now, and we're going to go through all of that in just a moment, but we need to take a break. And I want you, Kate, to listen to this and tell me if I'm kind of on the right track when we talk about leadership. Can we do that?
You got it.
Here are some points to ponder from Positive Talk Radio. Some say leadership is about getting the work done, about pushing forward, no matter the cost. But what's the cost of a team with no purpose? What if a single act of support, a single moment of genuine grit could change everything? What if leadership was a catalyst? Because true leadership isn't about being in control. It's about empowering others to find their purpose. It's about leading with passion and igniting the fire in everyone around you, creating a culture of teamwork and common purpose. A true leader finds this culture by enthusiastic purpose and team development, making each team member feel empowered to create, improve, and execute their tasks with genuine passion and a strong belief in the company's mission and focus. In other words, lead with purpose. And we're back with Kate Lowry, and she's an author. She's a comedian, as they say, and she's a writer, and she does all kinds of wonderful things. But first of all, I got to ask you, what did you think of that? Am I on the right track?
You are totally on the right track. If you can motivate people with intrinsic motivation that says what you're doing matters, it matters to the world, it matters to me, and this is why it matters to you, you are going to get so much mileage out of that team.
And Rochelle, I think that we've got a great team, and we're getting good mileage out of everybody, don't you think?
Yeah, I think you're pretty good at being a leader yourself and creating new leaders at the same time. How we talked about, it can be a negative, but it can be a positive experience. And as before we went to the break, Kevin, with what you were saying, it made me think, how sad is it that really these people who choose fear not only hurt themselves and create more chaos and more things to fear, which doesn't make sense, but also I understand why. But also what would it be like for them? Like how do these people react when they are shown affection? When they are told somebody's proud of them, or they're doing a good job, or they're loved? Do they twist that and let it build their ego even more? Or is it more of something maybe they can't accept because they're not used to it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So typically, leaders like this really like attention. They like
Mhm.
negative attention, getting reactions from people that show that they have power over them. They also really, really like positive attention. Oftentimes, you'll find CEOs like this surrounded by sycophantic leaders. This happens a lot in the tech industry,
Mhm.
where they hire in a lot of groupies who want to say, "Oh, yes, you're the smartest person ever. You're so good. What would we do without you? Blah, 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 blah." Um, but it can create kind of an echo chamber. And when they do receive affection, it's not reciprocal. If someone
Mm.
says, "I appreciate you so much," they're likely to
Yeah.
say back, "Okay."
Yeah.
Uh,
Or I know.
or, "I know I'm the best," right? And so,
Yeah.
they don't have the capacity to fully participate in relationships equally.
Mm.
So, really, a good leader is somebody that will surround himself with people technically that, and oftentimes that are smarter than them, and can give them good, solid advice and different perspectives that they may not have considered. And then they take that and analyze it. And if it turns out to be a really good idea, they'll utilize it and they'll give the person credit who came up with the idea, because that's the other thing that they do. A lot of them do is they so, oh yes, I came up with that wonderful idea, and it came from their staff or somebody there, and that defeats the whole purpose of anybody coming to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And what that says to someone is, "I'm not valued and I'm not appreciated." You know, I think that fear-based leaders, especially with the rise of AI right now, there's a lot of them in the AI industry, often wish their employees were machines that weren't messy or variable or having emotions or needing appreciation. They just wish that they could extract value from you like you were a natural resource or a machine. And let me tell you, people don't like being treated like machines.
No, no, not at all. It's funny, I've told Kevin about this. I worked at a dealership, a car dealership, and I was at the front desk and I also was selling cars. And they pulled every string possible that I didn't even know had stuck out at the time and completely had drained me. And by the time I had left, I didn't even have respect for them. It wasn't something that was like, I don't think this is right for me or whatever. I just in the middle of a shift one day, I walked up to him and said, I quit and I'm not coming back. Hire somebody else. And then when I realized too that out of them stressing me so hard to um, really just depreciate everything that I had. And like Kevin said, oh, well, I was the one who found the vehicle. I was the one who sent you out there. Well, yeah, because I don't have access to that. How is that my fault? You can't take my money for that, right? But the replacement of me seemed so effortless at the same time. They acted like they needed us in a sense of being fearful of it. And then when I left and I realized that they kind of just had the same circulating thing going on every 6 months, depending on the weather, literally. And it was crazy to watch the people who had chosen to leave and the people who chose to stay there based out of fear. And really they weren't helping themselves either. So it creates an atmosphere of dragging everybody down, but making everybody feel so needed at the same time. Like why does that make sense? Mhm.
Yeah. So, fear based leaders are experts at toying with human emotion.
Mm.
They'll say, "You're nothing without me. You know, you're powerless. Resistance is futile. You know, you're incompetent. You're stupid. But also, I need you. You can't go away. You're mine. You're mine forever. You know, you have to do what I say, or
Yeah.
else bad things will happen to me, and bad things will happen to you." You know, it's a disturbing mix of pathos, like a appeal to your emotions,
Yeah.
while also, you know, kind of carrying a big stick, um, and saying, you know, do this, or you know, bad things will happen to you. And what they're counting on are other people being predictably loyal, other people feeling guilt, other people having a conscience, and they say, yeah, this makes the people around me predictable. I don't have a conscience, so I can manipulate people that do really easily. And leaders like that, it's such a fruitless short-term type of effort, but a lot of people, get stuck in their webs. You could think of them as like a spider catching people in their web, and they're going, I really need you to come help me strengthen my web. Really, they're catching you because they want to extract all of the value and energy from you they can.
Yeah.
Are they narcissist? Is that narcissistic behavior?
For some fear-based leaders, yes. Technically, the psychological term for people that I define as fear-based would be they are a dark triad people, which means they have a mix of narcissism, psychopathic traits, and Machiavellianism. You could think of it as being someone who does not have strong self-awareness, combined with someone who cannot easily conceptualize or appreciate the suffering that they cause in others, which causes them to act in pretty different ways. There are also some fear-based leaders who, I don't know if you've seen the How I Met Your Mother episode where the boss yells at the man, who yells at the wife, who yells at the kid, who
Yeah.
yells at the dog. They start acting fear-based because there's pressure on them from above to be fear-based. Those people are not true fear-based leaders. They're just being impacted by their environment.
So are these
And
people usually emotional, or are they the opposite?
They're highly emotion driven.
Mm.
They might tell you things that are not connected to that. They might say, I'm all about the bottom line, whatever gives me top ROI, I'm gonna do yada yada. But in reality, they're pretty emotionally stunted. In my book, I have a chart that lets you clock the emotional maturity age of the people around you. Some of these leaders, their body age may be 50, but their emotional age might be 2. They have a lot of tantrums. They get cranky when they haven't had naps. They need lots of snacks. And that means you have to learn a toolkit to meet people where they're at with their emotional age. If someone's an
Yeah.
emotional 3-year-old, you need to have lots of distractions. You need to know what their triggers are. You need to make sure that the meetings have lots of breaks. You need to make sure that they're being given, time to play in their sandbox, whatever it is that makes them happy. And when you see them, you'll often notice that they're posturing. These leaders almost pound on their chests like a gorilla. They're saying, I'm big and scary, I'm strong, bow down to me. But it's really like a game. Do
Yeah.
you believe I'm big and scary? I'll get control out of you, that type of thing.
You know, it was interesting. If you are ever going to wonder, I'm speaking to our audience now, about the behavior of some folks, all I want you to do is go and look at a cabinet meeting with the United States of America, with the president sitting there and his team, and the amount of praise that they heap on. Oh, you're doing everything so well because you're just perfect and the economy is great and the military is better and it's all because of you. And this individual just takes it and soaks it up, but he's not self-aware enough to recognize that it's all a bunch of crap. That's not what they really think. That's not what they really feel. But he's still soaking it up. Do leaders like that, do they lack such self-awareness that they will take when somebody is treating them that way and singing their praises, they're not analytical about whether or not that's, a bunch of crap and they're just trying to get, favor from me, or are they that not self-aware?
Or are they, and they love it?
Yeah,
Uh,
which is it, Kate? I don't know.
Yeah, so there are a ton of leaders like this right now. There are a lot of politicians like this. There are a lot of tech leaders like this. There are a lot of people in business, social sector, in TV shows. We see it in Game of Thrones, Billions, Succession, House of Cards. Lots of leaders like this. And to your question, They are aware of right and wrong, but they don't believe that the rules apply to them.
Mm,
They think that they're above the rules. I'm a billionaire, so I'm above the laws. I'll pay my way out of any problem. Like if someone defames me, I'll buy the newspaper, put the newspaper out of business. No one can touch me. I'm untouchable. We see this in Silicon Valley. There's a philosopher named Curtis Yarvin who's become very popular. And Curtis Yarvin says there shouldn't be equality in society. Corporations should be like nation states, and we don't need things like human rights and things like that because there are the people who rule and the people who don't. And fear-based leaders really like the idea that they're above other people and the rules don't apply to them. And when they see a bunch of people who should be powerful in a meeting, whether that's, at a tech giant with people surrounding the CEO as VPs or somewhere else, and those people are kissing up to them, they think, wow, look at that. I got all these super educated,
mm.
high ranking people to bow down to me. And that strokes their ego.
Oh, Kate, it's frightening. Yeah, it really truly is, because that doesn't create a great environment for anybody, and it doesn't build a culture that is sustainable long term and
No.
stuff. By the way, we are talking with Kate Lowry. We need to take our halftime break, but when we come back, I want to know more about you and your background and your comedy and all the things that you're working on, because you're really quite talented, and it's great to have you here. And Rochelle, can I go to break now?
Yes, please do. I'd love to learn more.
Okay, we'll be right back. It's just a minute and 10 seconds. Just be quiet and stay where you are.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
Are you looking for your daily dose of inspiration? Stay connected to all your favorite shows, music, and news with the Brushwood Media Network app. From Positive Talk Radio to Greatest Vibes Unplugged and so many more uplifting voices around the world, everything you need is right in one place. It's easy to use, too. Always available and designed to keep you inspired 24 hours a day. Go to brushwoodmedianetwork.com and download the app, and you will always have Brushwood Media available on your smartphone. Download it now and make inspiration and music and conversation part of your everyday. See, that was even less than a minute and 10. And welcome back, everybody. Kate Lowry is here. Brochelle's here. I get to be here because I get to talk to some really smart women. And it's great to have both of you here. Of course, Brochelle's here all the time. Not as much as I'd like, but as much as I can get. But
Still dancing
Kate,
behind the scenes.
well, I'm hoping that we get to see your face before the end of the show.
Yes, I'm drying out, so it'll only be a moment. But let's talk about Kate's. What do you want to talk about? Actually, Kevin, I'll let you choose because you are really excited about something specific, I know.
I love comedy. It mystifies me. I mean, some people tell me that I'm kind of funny from time to time, but if I were to sit down and try and write comedy, couldn't even begin to figure it out, because if I don't, it's just, for me, it's just off the cuff, and as part of my improvisational background, I can't write comedy, and you can, and you do, and tell us about, you're also looking for someone to help produce a comedy special, aren't you?
That's right. Yeah, I'm in the process of writing my third comedy special, and I'm looking for production partners for them. I realized a couple of years ago how absurd life was feeling. I was finding myself in really surreal situations where I wanted to turn around and be like, "Hey, documentary crew, did you get that?" And I think that a lot of people are feeling like life is surreal, absurd, out there. Heard a lot of people say it feels like we're in a parallel universe. Like, what alternate timeline do we get stuck on? And so, my comedy is about helping people feel less alone, about different aspects of humanity that just boggle your mind. My first comedy special talks about how crazy things happened. I ended up in 5 lawsuits in a month, which as anyone who knows me knows, I hate working with lawyers. I'm very conflict averse. So for that to happen where people just wouldn't stop doing illegal things in front of me, wow, like, that's so wild. My second comedy special is about this feeling I've had where it feels like everyone around me is sleepwalking and I'm the only one awake. And I'm just desperately trying to wake them up, but they just keep tripping and falling down the stairs in front of me. And so it's kind of about relatable feelings like that.
And can I tell you something, Kate? When we start talking about comedy, you lit up. And that's your passion. That's what you really want to do, isn't it?
Yeah, I love helping people feel less alone, seen and heard. In my coaching work, I get to witness, executive struggles to help them build companies that people love working at. In my books, I'm teaching people the skills that they need to thrive, even in really adverse situations. And often they don't know that's possible. But in my comedy and sometimes in the music that I write, that is really about, communicating to people all around the world that you're not alone. I see you. And there's a lot of situations where you can either laugh or cry, and I almost always choose laugh.
Rochelle, she's pretty remarkable, isn't she?
Yeah, it keeps mentioning all these things. Well, and a little bit of this, and a little bit of that, and a whole lot of this. And I love that because a few weeks ago we were talking about dreams, and how they get so shut down, and all these passions and these things that we absorb and we love to do that we don't do. And you not only help people get there, but you show that example of, well, I find um, I find passion in more than just one thing, and that's the whole point of being human, right? Because I bet when you're helping these business leaders and they kind of have more of a one-tracked mind, it's like maybe you decide to play NFL and you think you're going to be a football player, and then you retire or something ends, but you have all these things that you're doing that are keeping you going, and I'm guessing that's pretty fulfilling. Out of all the things you do, what's your favorite thing? Do you have one?
Oh, I think having lots of things is like the joy of life, right? I also do a lot of advocacy work. I design clinical trials and research studies for complex chronic illness. Right now, I'm working on environmental consulting for some people. There's so many amazing things to do. I feel like being bored is an insult to myself, right? On my weekends, my general counsel says I make her tired. Because oftentimes each week there's a new project. I'm like, oh, I need a trade secrets counsel. Oh, boom, I need someone who specializes in clinical trials. Like, okay, like now I'm doing this other thing. And I think that that's part of the joy of life. Right now, my favorite thing is really watching my CEOs grow. So I work primarily with mission-driven and underrepresented startup CEOs. So it's a lot of people in healthcare, AI, climate tech, and seeing them kind of straighten their lives into lives that truly reflect their values, and knowing that they carry that into their companies as authentic leaders that people want to follow, is just really, really cool. Every time they do something really well, maybe they manage a board meeting, or they hire or fire really well, or they achieve a new fundraising round, I just want to jump up and down and cheerlead for them.
It is hard, and that's why somebody needs you, because it is hard being an entrepreneur who comes up with this fantastic idea, and I'm going to do this, and then to turn around and become a leader of people, which is what happens when you are in management and you're a leader. Sometimes those skills are not compatible. And so you need to teach somebody how to be a good leader who is an entrepreneur, who is used to doing everything on their own, and I can do this and I'll do that, and now they have to rely on other people and trust other people. Is that difficult for them to get that through their head, that they can't do it all themselves? They're going to run out of time and run out of stuff, so that's why they need a good team around them.
Yes, they need a great team. And I often tell my CEOs, no one's born knowing everything. It's always okay to need help. It's always okay to admit that you don't know. The first step to solving a problem you don't know how to solve is telling someone about it. And so my goal is always to join them, be in their corner, and problem solve things us versus problem together. Because a lot of executives feel very alone. They can't go to their board and go, oh man, I'm out over my skis. And they definitely can't say that to the people below them who are looking at them as a role model. And so I try to come in as someone who's truly an objective peer with no vested interest in the outcome. Because startup CEOs, they're always getting pushed around. Their board wants things, their investors want things, their spouse wants things, their employees want things. And it gets very hard for them to hear their own voice.
I can only imagine when when you're getting investors and you've got a board and you've got the wife at home that says, why aren't you home more? And the kids that say, Dad, let's go play. I can't, I got to go do this. And all of those pressures that are on these individuals, how do you teach them balance?
Well, that is a tricky thing. One of the things I talk about both in my book and with my entrepreneurs is about how critical it is to have multiple sources of identity. If you only have one identity, maybe I'm the CEO of X company, and then something threatens that identity, maybe you have an activist investor or a board member who wants to push you out, it feels like your world is collapsing. It's like sitting on a stool that only has one leg. But if you have multiple sources of identity, which might be, I'm a father, I'm a baker, I play soccer, I'm a podcaster, whatever those are, it provides different supports so that when one identity is under threat, which might be you get sick and you're an athlete, all of a sudden you're sick and you're not an athlete anymore, you have those other identities to fall back on. And so when I'm working with my entrepreneurs, I have to make sure that they're sleeping, that they're eating, and that they're doing something that is not just their startup. I don't care what it is, something that brings them joy that is not just their startup.
I can only imagine, because these guys are driven, but they also feel, because they're getting investors that have, in some cases, invested large sums of money, that they want to see results back in a relatively short period of time, or the board that they've assembled and stuff like that. It takes I don't know if I don't know that I'd want to do that. That seems like way too much work, Rochelle, doesn't it?
In a way, I've always not been afraid of those kinds of things, whether I'm working with one person or 1,000 of them. But it makes me think too, with what you were saying, Kate, how much it helps their team to feel relatable to them. So they naturally will respect them and they'll get better work out of them, because they don't just see them as that. They're not just my boss. They may understand when I come in and I had a blowout with the teenager this morning and I'm a little stressed and I need somebody who is my leader to fall back on and support and be human with. We're not just two people working together, and for there not to be the human support of what we need from each other. So do you see that happen a lot with the leaders, where you see that change? It's like, wow, like I'm noticing that my team is coming to me for things aside from work, because they're able to see me as more than just that.
Yeah, I tell my leaders that a really good sign is when people start bringing you ideas and people start bringing you problems, because it means that they feel safe. It means
Yeah.
that they feel safe to suggest a new idea, and it means that they feel safe to tell you when something is going wrong. And it's that type of safety that creates businesses that are sustainable and can scale. But the safety to be yourself at work is also a really, really big deal. Employees want to stay at companies that they feel like know them, trust them, and empower them.
Empowerment is a big deal because, have been countless studies done about job satisfaction for employees. And some people would say that pay is the number one. It is never the number one. It is like 5, 6, or 7, depending, but job satisfaction and feeling like you have a future and are vested in the success of the company and getting rewarded for it, those are much higher than pay, aren't they?
Yes, everyone needs a living wage, but more than that, humans need to be seen, heard, and valued because we're not machines.
No, and someday, Rochelle, you'll get a living wage, I promise.
Don't even stress it, Kevin. That's not what I'm worried about. And that proves your point right there.
By the way, we're talking again with Kate Lowry. And when we come back, I want to focus on Unbreakable. And because that's coming out on the 28th, and how you can pre-order it, and really what the whole thing is about. And this is just a short little break. And so please stay with us. It's only 43 seconds, and we'll be right back. More with Kate. Love. War and freedom collide in the Girl of Many Crowns. Judith of Francia's story will take you from the heart of royal courts to the chaos of Viking invasions. It's a tale of resilience and courage that proves history is not just written by kings, but by women who dared to choose their own path. The Girl of Many Crowns is available now on Amazon Books, Kindle, Amazon Audiobooks, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and Book Baby Bookshop. Don't just read history, experience it. Order your copy today. And welcome back to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin McDonald, and Rochelle is, oh, there, look at her. She's right there. And Kate Lowry is here. And by the way, Kate, I want to make a commercial for your book, too.
I would love that. That would be so cool. I mean, you can see me smiling, seeing that you just had a book trailer as your advertisement. That is way cool.
Yes, and she was well, I got to tell you, when my team put that together and I saw it was like, holy mackerel, we are good, or excuse me, they are good, and thank God for them, and so we're doing that because that's part of what we do, and then we'll play you and have 1 million people listen to it, and who knows what will happen from there. So we're excited about that. And welcome, Rochelle. For those of you that are watching, not listening, Rochelle has made her appearance. Thank you for that.
Yes, of course. I am alive, and my face is now officially dried out because thank you, Benadryl. And I won't let myself fall asleep either on that. But Kate, what inspired you to write the book? Like, what was the whole idea? Did someone come to you and say, "Girl, you need to write a book"?
Actually, someone did. I didn't expect to write a book this year. I really didn't. But it was around February, and my peers started spinning out. They were overwhelmed, panicking, freezing, shutting down because they felt like the ground was moving under their feet. You know, my peers at Silicon Valley gatherings were all saying, I have difficult, toxic bosses. I can't get away from them. Every company that I'm looking at seems to have the same problem. But while they were having a really hard time, I was totally fine. And that's when I realized that I had, decades of experience working with this type of leader. I've been able to spend so much time around this type of leader that I've been running experiments about what works on them for years. And so I started writing a tactical guide of how to thrive under very difficult, adverse, top-down leaders. Because these leaders will lie to you and they'll say, you're powerless, as long as I'm in the room, I have all the control. But that's totally not true. In reality, these leaders are deeply insecure and highly predictable. because they run on fear, they're not very creative. And that means that the tactics in my book work really reliably on them. And so my goal is to kind of arm people who are stuck in these types of environments or who can't find a job or a company that has better leadership on how to protect what they care about.
Yeah.
I
That
was
makes
just
sense.
thinking, wouldn't it make sense if you were a company who had a great culture, but nobody knows you have a great culture until you get into the company? Wouldn't it make sense for them to be advertising that we have a great culture and our management style is different than anybody else? Wouldn't that be a good thing to put out there?
It totally would. And honestly, if you know where those companies are, please tell me. I'll tell all my friends. You know, uh, I often say that strengths-based companies are like a positive flywheel. They just keep growing and growing and growing. They get the best people stay, the good people invite more people. And companies that are fear-based are like downward spirals. And you really want to be on one and not the other.
And because and number one, it's a lot more fun. And by the way, having a good company culture isn't about ordering pizza for the office on Friday afternoon or having a employee suggestion box in the cafeteria, which probably, by the way, the CEO doesn't even know where the cafeteria is, and stuff. So it's about interaction. It's about taking care of each other, and it's about leading from. I call it like leading from behind.
Mm.
You don't have to be in front. What you do is provide everybody with what they need to be effective, and then let them go. Children, go. You can do this. And is that some of the principles that you would advocate for, and is in your book?
Yes. So essentially, what you're suggesting is that leaders set the North Star. They say, this is what we're aiming for, and this is what we move towards. And then you should let the people move towards it in the way that makes the most sense to them. You could think of it as if you're in a rowboat, the person in the back of the boat is what steers, but everyone in front of you is who's moving the boat forward and doing the rowing.
Mm.
Really good leadership is about knowing what your team is great at and then unblocking every obstacle in front of them so they can just knock down what they want to do.
Yeah. And I want to give you time to get all your information out, but I have to ask you this because I'm curious. When you work with somebody, or maybe someone's read your book and they've come to you and they say, oh my gosh, Kate, like I actually kind of enjoy going to work, even though I have a fear-based leader, because now I feel like I'm learning how to play their game better than them. And
Mhm.
that makes them feel empowered. Or they say, hey, you know what? I realize that deep down, I now know who this person is, even though they are a fear-based leader, but I kind of like them. And we're finding a relationship and we're coming to terms at an equal level. Do you ever have that happen? Has that ever been a thing?
Yes. So I've had several advanced readers who are dealing with bosses like this read my book. And
Mhm.
what they've essentially said is, wow, okay, I wish I had this earlier.
Yeah.
Because before I felt like I was stuck. Now I'm unstuck. And before I felt like I had no options. And now I can run circles around this type of leader while they are stuck. And
Yeah.
that's really what my goal is to activate people's agency and empower them with the toolkits they need to be successful.
Very,
And the
very
book comes out
good.
on the 28th, but if somebody wants to pre-order it, how do they do that now?
They can pre-order on Barnes& and Noble or Amazon. Also, a Kindle version is available. So really, please do go check it out. It's designed to feel like someone's sitting across the table from you, and you're kind
Mm.
of getting advice from a friend about how to deal with assholes.
Very good. I need that
In a
book.
word. Yeah. Wait a minute. What do you mean? No, I'm kidding.
Well, not for you. Well, we could both probably use that in a few different situations. But if somebody wants to get a hold of you or find certain websites or any of that kind of fun stuff, what are the ways to connect to you that are specific to you?
Definitely check out my website at katelowry.com, my coaching work at scaleheart.co. You can follow me on Instagram at Kate Unbreakable Lowry. I write on LinkedIn and Substack twice a week, and I would really love for you to follow along. I try to make everything bite-sized, easy to understand, and give you lots of really practical, tactical tips.
Beautiful.
And if you are an entrepreneur and you've got this absolutely greatest idea ever for a brand new widget, but the idea is starting a company and running it and managing it scares the bejesus out of you, I would call Kate because she can help you, can't you?
Absolutely. I am my entrepreneur's biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
And you know something? I firmly believe that as a manager or as a leader, that if you become a great cheerleader of the people that you have working for you, they can accomplish more than you have any idea. Is that true?
Yep.
I think that's totally true.
Kate, who was your cheerleader?
I've been really lucky to have many cheerleaders in my life. I've had my own coaches. One of my music teachers was a big cheerleader of mine growing up. And then, lots of friends, therapists, doctors, even my general counsels. It's a very lucky life when you have people in it who care.
And even though your general counselor says, "You make me tired."
Yes. Yeah. Well, I need to send her on vacation.
There you go.
Katie, we've run out of time, and I really have enjoyed having you here, and I know Rochelle has too. I want you to take a moment to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know that can be beneficial to everybody, because you are a service person deep down inside, and you want to help people regardless in as many ways as you can. So the floor is yours, my dear.
Yes, I would say no matter what your struggle is, you are less alone than you feel. And if you are stuck, talking to someone about it is the first way to find a way out.
That is awesome. Rochelle, anything else before we go, my dear?
Just thank you for having this program and being such a non-fear-based leader and creating the atmosphere that you do for me and Kate to be here. And thank you, Kate, for your time and your knowledge and everything that you're doing. We are so having high hopes for you. And the 28th, please go get her book, which is Unbreakable. You can pre-order it now. Just go look for it. And just some thought. If you happen to find yourself somewhere where you see there is a fear-based leader in charge, maybe spark the idea of putting that book in the office. And once again, thank you so much, Kate, for creating this.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, that is a brilliant idea, Rochelle. Let's stick it on the coffee table and the waiting room, and of course he'll never see it because he just walks right by there.
You could find his address and mail it to him or her, a little random
this could
gift.
be. Yes, you need to read this, and that would be good. And speaking of fearless leaders and wonderful leaders, we have a gentleman. He is in the Siberia slums of Rochelle. Thank you.
Samuel is in Kenya. Hello. Thank you for catching the end of the show. We absolutely love you. Go back and watch this. I think you guys would love it. It's so good for you and your team. And join us in for the next show. And thanks again, Kate. This has been a blast. And I still have so many questions for you. So if you'd like to ever come back and touch base with us on how the book went and more amazing things that you're doing, we'd love to have you back.
Oh, my pleasure. It would be great.
It would be great to have you back, and Samuel and everybody. He's got 20 people sitting in a room watching a big screen TV, and you're there.
That is beyond cool.
Isn't that really cool? And in my world, it's wonderful, and it's wonderful to see you. And thank you for doing the work that you're doing. We appreciate you greatly. And if you are a fear-based leader, knock it the hell off and learn how to be a good guy or gal, and take care of your people, because that's all you got are good people. And Kate, thank you so much. Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got.